not an objective source of information. They are a highly biased political machine that is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again.
That was kind of a spooky interview, wasn't it? But it was potentially very important. It's said to be a Google whistleblower claiming that Google is trying to rig the next US election in 2020. Well, if he's telling the truth, and Donald Trump thinks he is, then this should be one of the biggest stories in the world right now. And yet, hardly reported in the mainstream media. And they have their reasons, which we will discuss in a moment. But first, let's just look at who said what, starting with the journalist who claims to have the dirt on Google. This is James O'Keefe, founder of Project Veritas, a conservative online media outlet. O'Keefe will do anything for his cause.
I'm James O'Keefe. I'm right in the center of the Mexican-American border, and I see no border patrol, I see no security. Anybody can cross. And I'm here today to ask you, do you feel safe?
O'Keefe believes that Google is trying to rig the 2020 election and says his interview with a Google employee is compelling evidence.
They're not an objective source of information. They are a highly biased political machine that is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again.
O'Keefe also presents this secretly recorded video of Google executive Jen Janai, who is talking, unwittingly, to a couple of his undercover employees over dinner. She appears to say that Google is working to stop Donald Trump being re-elected. The president himself believes Google is trying to rig the 2020 election.
Well, somebody at Google said they don't want what happened in 2016 to happen in 2020. They don't want it to happen again, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Let me tell you, they're trying to rig the election. That's what we should be looking at, not the witch hunt, the phony witch hunt.
Some Republican senators have also weighed in.
Do you think it's Google's job to, quote, prevent the next Trump situation?
Thank you, Senator. I don't agree with that. No, sir.
So why isn't this big news across every major network, except Fox, of course?
Google wants to hack our election. They're saying that out loud.
Well, conservatives suspect the mainstream media won't cover the story because of their liberal bias.
If you or me say something, well, this is what's going on, you're a conspiracy theorist. If CNN or MSNBC say it, they're just taking educated guesses, right? They're analyzing the data that they have. We all know what's going on.
But journalists do have cause to be wary. The full video is not available, and what is available has in some parts been edited. Google's Jen Janai has similar concerns. She says Project Veritas has edited the video to make it seem that I'm a powerful executive who is confirming that Google is working to alter the 2020 election. On both counts, this is absolute, unadulterated nonsense. Google's subsidiary, YouTube, has taken the Jen Janai video down, citing a privacy claim by a third party, even though the conversation was recorded in public. Well, this has just reinforced some people's beliefs that Google has something to hide.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, this is quite a complicated story, both in terms of social media and politically, so let's unpack it with our panel now. In the top left, we have Matt Binder, a tech and politics reporter for Mashable. He says James O'Keefe is a right-wing provocateur and insists Google is not biased. Richard Granville on the right there, total opposite. As the founder and CEO of his own search engine, Yippee, he thinks Google is definitely trying to rig the election. And finally, we have Bill Mitchell, one of the most influential conservative commentators in America, says he knows what it's like to be targeted by big tech. Let's start with Matt Binder. Matt, you've seen the full 25-minute Project Veritas presentation, and yet you're not convinced. Why?
Right, well, I mean, anyone pretty much could have done this expose, and it would have literally had more authority than the fact that James O'Keefe is the one behind it. This is someone who, with his organization, Project Veritas, has put out a number of highly deceptive, highly edited, misleading videos over the years that basically have made false claims. For example, he rose to fame with his takedown of Acorn, a organization that basically provided services to low-income communities, such as voter registration drives. Now, he put out a number of videos claiming that Acorn was helping certain illegalities pass through, helping people who came to them looking for guidance get away with crimes. And an investigation into these videos found that this was untrue. It was not true. These videos were highly edited. And at the end of the day, when all was said and done, James O'Keefe had to apologize to the employees of Acorn and pay a six-figure settlement to some of them.
Matt, that's true. That's true, but he has had a couple of successes, some high-profile successes. For example, he got the CEO of NPR to step down. He caught a CNN producer making disparaging remarks about their own coverage, about Russia and so on. So, you know, yes, he has poor form in some cases, but in this instance, why don't you think he's right?
Well, it's simple that he's not telling the whole story here. The video here, again, knowing his history, we know his work is highly edited, and sometimes things are staged and then videoed and inserted into his
so basically you want to see
projects.
The full video, right?
We need to see the full thing to be able to understand
Bill,
what's going on here.
Let's go to Bill Mitchell. Bill, you've interviewed James O'Keefe a few times. What do you make of him?
Well, you know, I mean, he's just a great guy. He's a patriot, obviously. He's bold. He's fearless. This whole specious argument that this is edited video is taken out of context. I mean, this is directly out of the far left's playbook. They always say that. I mean, in this case, this woman was very clearly saying that they need to prevent another Trump situation in 2020. That isn't, you know, bits and pieces taken out from various newspapers and pasted on a piece of paper, Unabomber style. That was a direct quote from her on camera. To say that we are not seeing what we are seeing, I mean, come on, we're not morons, we're not idiots. In this case, there was no editing taking place here to give the wrong impression. This is based upon hours and hours and hours of video.
Bill, we're going to get into a forensic analysis. I'm glad to get your initial thoughts, but we're going to get into a deeper analysis in a moment. Rich, your initial thoughts on seeing the full presentation by Project Veritas?
I mean, O'Keefe nailed it out of the park. You know, we got Matt Bender talking about Acorn. Who gives a damn about Acorn? We're talking about Google here. We're talking about Google trying to gain the results to push out the President of the United States. There's no editing involved here. The words were clear, they were spoken, and they were delivered in a manner that can leave no other alternative to what was going on. Period. The end.
Well, let's take a look at the words themselves, okay? The two main claims made in the video. Let's start with claim number one. Google is trying to rig the election. So, Google executive Jen Janai was recorded saying, "We all got screwed over in 2016." And she also argued that Google shouldn't be broken up so that it remains powerful enough to, quote, prevent the next Trump situation. Now, in her statement, she claims she was referring to preventing the types of online interference that happened in 2016, and that Project Veritas has misrepresented her words. Well, there you go, Bill. I mean, isn't that a point that maybe in the previous statement, in the previous sentence, she might have mentioned foreign interference? So maybe that's what she was referring to.
Yeah, I don't think so. She referred to the Trump situation. She didn't refer to the foreign interference situation. She didn't refer to the Russian collusion situation. She said the Trump situation. I mean, it's pretty clear here. And talk about editing the video. Clearly, her legal staff has given her the spin here to make it look like she was talking about something completely different. It's very obvious what she was talking about here. She was talking about preventing the re-election of Donald Trump. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This is not about some sort of foreign interference.
That's a fact that she did mention Trump's situation as opposed to the foreign interference situation. And look, leaving that aside, we know from the past by that video that was leaked to Breitbart that Google's management was devastated that Trump won in 2016. It wouldn't really be out of keeping with those sort of earlier comments, would it?
Well, I mean, the video where the Google executives are speaking to their employees, that's clearly just a case of Google knowing that the majority of their employees just happen to be on the liberal side of things, and they were trying to make them feel more comfortable with what happened. A lot of people
they were nearly in tears, some of them.
It was this massive, kick in the gut that we were going to lose, and it was really painful.
Right. But Google, the company, the people who pull the strings, the people at top, They don't necessarily feel that way. And we know this based on websites like opensecrets.org that tracks the lobbying dollars spent. And we know that since 2012, Google's PACs have donated more money to Republicans than to Democrats. We also know, talking about the Trump situation, we also know that tech companies have been dealing with fake news, misinformation, data privacy breaches. And we know that in 2016, all those things helped benefit Donald Trump. For example, Cambridge Analytica, the company that was founded by Steve Bannon and Robert Mercer, they basically used they got profiles from 87 million Facebook users without those users' permission and against Facebook's terms of service. And they were able to use that information to help Trump's campaign. That could have easily been the Trump situation.
Rich, you want to come in here? Big tech's actually helping Trump.
I'm tired of listening to this drivel, Matt. You don't have a clue what you're talking about, okay? Number one, we all know what the Breitbart interview was. Breitbart was basically telling the owners, the big cheeses of Google, talking about how upset they were that Donald Trump was elected, and now we're talking about that they're back again, saying that they want to fix the situation. So I'm just going to tell you, like, what you're saying makes no sense to me. I don't think it's going to make sense to anybody who's actually watching this show. And to be honest with you, it's starting to piss me off a little bit.
Going to look at claim number 2 now. Google manipulates our search results to suit its own worldview. That's the claim. Well, let's start with Jen Janai again. She was recorded saying, our definition of fairness is one of those things that we thought would be like obvious, and everyone would agree to it, and it wasn't. There was the same people who voted for the current president who do not agree with our definition of fairness. Now, according to the whistleblower, this is crucial.
What I found at Google related to fairness was a machine learning algorithm called ML Fairness, ML standing for machine learning. And fairness meaning whatever it is that they want to define as fair. You could actually think of fairness as unfair because it's taking as input the clicks that people are making and then figuring out which signals are being generated from those clicks and which signals it wants to amplify and then also dampen.
Okay, so then O'Keefe asks him to give an actual example of search results being manipulated.
So I have Google.com up in front of me, and I'm going to try to put this AI machine learning thing to the test. I'm going to type in the following words: men can. And I see men can have babies, men can get pregnant, men can have periods, men can cook. Do most people search for that stuff, or what is the company doing internally?
People aren't searching for this. This is literally coming from source of truth databases that they've selected represent the truth and that they are pulling this information from.
And then we try it again with, let's try this with women can. I see women can vote, women can do it, women can do anything, women can be drafted.
Yes.
Seems a little interesting.
Back up to Matt Binder now. Matt, the question here about this Google autocomplete, is Google manipulating our searches and even the way we think as we go about our searching?
Well, the algorithm is basically pulling up search terms that other people search, popular searches on Google. If it manipulates things in one way or another, that's certainly a problem. And Google is actually, as they show in a later example in that Project Veritas video, but completely misunderstanding what they're actually seeing. I'll bring that example up. They basically type in Hillary Clinton emails, and Google stops auto-completing once they start typing out emails. And the reason for that is Google doesn't want to sway people one way for something like that, a scandal that would affect just one politician.
You're saying you're saying in that instance then that Google does step in and stops it auto-completing whatever Hillary Clinton's emails might bring up next.
Right, and they use the example to compare. They type in Donald Trump emails next, and that actually auto-completes Donald Trump emails. But the reason for that is there was no scandal around Donald Trump emails. None of the searches about Donald Trump's emails are about something that hurt Donald Trump. In fact, if you read what the auto-completes actually say, it says Donald Trump's email address.
Matt, people want to know about scandals. That's the thing. Rich, come in.
You could still You can still search it though. They're not stopping you from
here,
searching.
Pre-show basically says he doesn't know how to code. He's never done any coding in his life. He's not a search engineer, but he's telling us how search engines work. He has no clue what he's talking about. So the bottom line is this: if Google wants to game the results, if Google wants to push results higher, if Google wants to control the autocomplete, of course it's all done inside of the master program. The search engineer can do any of this. So at the end of the day, does Google control search results? The answer is absolutely.
I want to take a quote out of this whistleblower. It says, people aren't searching for this. This is literally coming from source of truth databases. What is that, Rich? What are source of truth databases?
Databases are data silos that contain different aspects of what the web is, right? So in Yippee, at my search engine, I can actually game results by packing in more results into a certain database and then calling that database twice, therefore raising the relevancy of anything that I want on the fly. It's very simple. Everybody does the same thing. I mean, it's not like there's some secret sauce that says, oh, you know, this is something tough to do. It is like SOP in the search business.
So Matt, when he says that Google is amplifying certain queries in order to satisfy its own liberal agenda, I'm paraphrasing, you wouldn't agree with that?
No, because as I was saying before, the Hillary Clinton email was her scandal. If you try to type in Donald Trump's sexual assault allegations of the dozens of women who have accused the president of sexually assaulting them, they don't autocomplete that either because they don't want to sway people in that way either.
Okay, another
They're
question.
basically staying away from the scandals because they don't. You can still search them,
Matt?
but they're not going to push you towards them.
Gotcha. Another question for you, Matt. When James O'Keefe said, you know, why is it when I type in men can, it comes up with men can have babies, men can have periods? Are people searching for this? Actually, later in the interview, the whistleblower says, no, if you look at Google Trends, very few people are looking for these sorts of things. They just choose how to autocomplete.
Right. Well, I can't speak to that term right now on Google Trends because I don't have that in front of me. But in the video example, they bring up the Hillary Clinton emails and the Donald Trump emails. And it does show, yes, the Hillary Clinton emails is a search term that's trended, whereas Donald Trump's emails is a search term that hasn't. And going back to what I said before, the reason for this is because Donald Trump did not have an email scandal. They don't want to promote something. They let you search for it. They'll bring up the news results so you can educate yourself on it. But by auto-completing it, they feel they're going to tell you to search a certain way that you may not have shown up to search for to begin with. And that would sway people in one direction.
Okay. You know, in addition to these videos, Project Veritas also says it got its hands on a trove of confidential documents from within Google that back up their claims. Have a listen.
For example, imagine that a Google image query for CEOs shows predominantly men. Even if it were a factually accurate representation of the world, it would be algorithmic unfairness, unquote. Gaurav Gite, a Google software engineer, independently verified the thesis of this document.
But then there are teams which are called ML fairness.
ML fairness, the teams?
Fairness, like,
yeah.
You know, you need to be fair.
Yeah.
So they're trying to modify the model such that even if the data for female CEOs is
it's low.
It's low.
It kind of balances out.
It still balances out.
Back to Matt for a second. Matt, is Google showing us the world as it wishes to be as opposed to the world as it is?
Right. Well, it's very possible. I mean, again, it's hard to tell with these Project Veritas videos what he's exactly talking about, what the context is, what the Google engineer was asked. But let's just take it as it is. Well, Google's a private company, and if they choose to do it, to put something a certain way on their website,
Public company, Matt.
It's certainly
company.
They're a privately
company.
They're not
privately owned, Matt. They're a publicly traded company.
They're not
meaning they're traded on the stock exchange.
Right, but they're not run by the government. So they don't have to agree to run by First Amendment rights or anything like that. Freedom of speech, they can skew things the way they want.
The thing is, guys, let me interject here real quickly. That's the rub, as they say. Because the CEO of Twitter appeared before Congress and said, we are the public square. And that's the thing. Are these companies private companies where they do not have to offer us First Amendment protections, or are they the public square? And there is the argument that they are the public square, and that's where some of this antitrust legislation is coming down. If it can be proven that they are, in fact, the public square, then they have to provide First Amendment protections for us. Also, there is clear evidence that Google and these other high-tech companies are providing high-level, high-value in-kind donations to the DNC by blocking the content and the opinions of pro-Trump supporters, of conservative supporters. And that's where they may be running afoul of campaign finance laws. So this could be a big deal.
Matt, come in.
I find this really, I always find this argument from conservatives very interesting, because what Bill Mitchell is basically saying is that the business-friendly conservative viewpoint is they would like to see the government take over and run Twitter, run Google, run YouTube. Because that's what would happen.
Is that what you're saying, Bill?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I just want Twitter and Google.
But that can't happen then.
And all these companies to stop using a far left bias to limit our speech. Let's just make it an objective, level playing field.
Well,
if they are the public
there's
square,
one of two
as Jack
choices,
at
though.
Twitter
There's
said,
one of
if
two
they are the,
choices.
excuse me, if they are the public square, as Jack at Twitter said they are, then they must provide First Amendment protections to everybody out there. Of course, they can limit things like threats of violence and that sort of thing, but they should make it a level playing field. And they're afraid for the truth to get out there because the truth opposes liberal ideology.
Bill, thank you for that. Now, so far, we've examined the secret recording, the whistleblower, and the leaked documents, and it doesn't end there. Project Veritas also revealed a Google employee's email in which he called 3 popular conservative YouTubers Nazis, even though 2 of them are Jewish. Now, it mentions Google could possibly disable the suggestions featured on YouTube, or rather YouTube could. Let's go back to Bill for a moment. Bill, as a conservative online presence, have you ever felt the long arm of Google or Twitter, for that matter?
Oh, yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, as far as the whole shadow banning thing, it's really interesting how it works.
Shadow banning.
I have about 441,000 followers on Twitter, about a 5% engagement rate. And what will happen is that typically they have these algorithms going. My average tweet will get between 15 and 20,000 impressions. Occasionally, whoever's doing the algorithms takes a day off. Maybe they're reloading their system or doing whatever, and the algorithms go away. And instead of 15,000 impressions per tweet, I'll get 100,000 impressions per tweet. Instead of 300 likes per tweet, I'll get 5,000 likes per tweet. So clearly something is going on here to try to tamp down our message. And the problem is that there are lots of people that have chosen to follow me, would like to see what I have to say, and Twitter is hiding me from them, so they have to go to my profile.
Matt, quick thought from you as we come to the end of the show?
I mean, I just don't understand how someone with 400,000 Twitter followers can say that Twitter is suppressing them and hurting them in any way. That's a large audience. His tweets get a lot of attention and engagement, and clearly they're not hiding him from people.
Do you think that Google and YouTube and so on should be regulated because they essentially run the public square? You step into the internet, you're stepping in through Google. So as a massive dominant player, do you think there should be more regulation on them?
Listen, organizations like the EFF, the ACLU, many progressive-leaning organizations, and myself included, have for many years, well before conservatives thought they were being shadow banned online, have called for government regulation on the major tech companies like Google, like Amazon, like YouTube. And, you know, it's nice to see conservatives jump on board. It's unfortunate they're jumping on board for selfish reasons that are just truly unfounded. They think it's affecting them now.
Says you, Matt.
But we'll take it. We'll take it.
God bless you, son. You got to put your side in. But I tell you what, I'm going to go with Bill. I'm going to go with myself, and not some guy with messed up hair at his mom's basement telling me how the internet works. Okay, I own one of the first internet service providers, Matt. One of the first internet service providers in the world. I owned it. I started it.
Okay. Listen, I have to ask you this. Do you consider Yippee to be an unbiased search engine?
Yippie's algorithms are clean. In fact, Yippee is actually run by Watson, right? So we use the Watson algorithms. As you probably realize, Yippee is owned partially by IBM. So we run the cleanest Watson algorithms. AI, right? They're talking about the AI, ethical AI, right? I have the most ethical AI in the world.
So I have to ask you then. I went to Yippee and did a number of searches. Hillary Clinton, I searched for. Facebook, I searched for. Donald Trump, I searched for. Kamala Harris, I searched for. And for every one of those search results, on the left-hand side where it says top results, Yippee is promoting a conservative website called freedomoutpost.com.
Matt, you're absolutely full of There's no top results. What are you looking at? Were you on some other search engine? I suggest you go to my search engine and it says, we don't have top results, bud. That doesn't even exist on my engine. You are absolutely full of.
No, I'm not.
The real opportunity here is for the major Silicon Valley companies to really come to the table and understand, as Bill said, we need a level playing field here. I've been personally shadow banned myself on Twitter. Jack Dorsey and I have had a few indiscretions back and forth a few times. At the end of the day, it's about respecting everybody and not putting lies on air.
Rich, thank you very much. Get the last word. Matt Binder and Bill Mitchell, thank you all for contributing passionately to the Nexus today, and thank you for watching. That's all we have time for, but we are continuing this discussion online, so check out YouTube channel, YouTube Nexus channel there, and you'll see the three of these guys with their gloves off and sparring even harder. Thanks for watching. Till next week, goodbye.